What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing well today. Not the best start I've ever had. Today, I thought since the release of the two strokes and the e-bikes are just going to be coming up very, very shortly, I thought it'd be an interesting idea to see how current e-bikes that we have in game work with the Supercross tracks we've got. So I'm on the SurRon right now, which was created by, this is really embarrassing, I can't remember his name, Drizzle Atomic is who it was created by, just had a check. And I've only done one video on this bike before, which was on a very, very old Supercross track that Ruben made, and it went quite well. But, as we know, these tracks are made by Stone Rider, and the scaling is quite a bit different to anybody else's. So we're going to see how it goes, and see really if I can hit what I would consider the main lines. Now, this rhythm section to my right, there is a massive quad, triple, double on a 250. And that's kind of what I'm going to relate this bike to, is I'm going to treat it like a 250. It's not super, super fast. Can we get it in? Oh, God, we can't. But the suspension's so bloody springy that it just popped me back up and over anyway. I feel like it lacks just a little bit in comparison. But one thing that might be... Oh, God, the suspension's all over the place. One thing that might be very interesting to see when these bikes do release is even like a spin-off Supercross series held on the e-bikes, because the e-bikes are going to be in their own class. Now, I don't know. I haven't got the insider information on if the SurRon is going to be included in that. However, I know that the Alta and I also believe the Stark Varg are both going to be in there. There might be some weird and wonderful other e-bikes I'm unaware of that could be in that pack. I have no idea. But I think it'd be quite funny just hearing a bunch of blenders going up the start straight. I've only watched a handful of e-bike videos IRL, especially motocross ones, and it always seems so weird to me when you're watching from a GoPro perspective and you can just hear the rear tyre and like the chain slapping rather than hearing an engine. And I don't know if I'd ever be able to get over that, as well as the fact that you haven't got a clutch on the left-hand side. It just seems so odd, but I know that is the direction that we're heading in the motocross industry. Unfortunately, I do. I like my combustion engine. You know, I don't want to go to battery, and it's just the fact that batteries are more harmful to the environment to produce than it is to run your fuel bike anyway is just baffling to me. So I have no idea how we're going down that route. But I feel like in maybe 20 or so years' time, probably everyone's going to be forced to ride the e-bikes, so that's where we're going. I feel like we've got to embrace it after a while. And if you... I don't care much for the SurRons. I don't think they're motocross bikes at all. They're more meant for the streets, and I see a lot of bike life guys running them. I always get bloody YouTube suggestions for random bike life SurRon videos that I have no interest in, so I have no idea why YouTube keeps pushing it my way. But if you have or had an Alta, or if you are one of the lucky few people to have ridden a Varg so far, how do you feel that they compare to your normal motocross bike? Because I think I watched a bit of Kenny riding the Varg, and he said he really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, you've got... Oh, God, which one of the Hill brothers is it? It's going to be embarrassing. One of the Hill brothers, who is a massive e-bike rider, like took it to straight river and all sorts, and they both... Well, everyone seems to have really good things to say. I think it's mostly from how talky they are, from a power perspective. You know, like the acceleration on them is absolutely crazy. And I imagine that trying to get used to the whole no clutch thing would probably wouldn't take that long, I suppose. Especially if you're like that high level of a rider as they are, and you kind of switch between different bikes here and there, like every other season and stuff. You probably adapt quite well to different ways of riding different bikes. This bike sucks arse in the sand. I'm throwing that out there right now. Unfortunately, I've got stock mid-soft tyres on, because all of those other tyre options that came out with the Beta 18 OEM bikes, they don't work with these. It's purely for the Beta 18 OEMs, and that's it. Which is a bit of a shame. Right, let me see if I can do this line instead. So we go double, quad. No, can't get the quad either. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think I can do any big lines in there. The only other alternative I have is going left side, step on, step off, and then maybe like a triple double. I mean, it's awful through the whoops. I'm actually having to lean forward through the whoops, because as soon as I lean back, it just kind of gives me a weird kick. But the reason I wanted to play this track out of the four that have been released so far this season is I actually think, just from a normal just riding perspective, I think this is my favourite track of the four. Now, my results from the stream 2 days ago do not represent that whatsoever. I rode absolutely horrendous. I think I got 6th in EU, and embarrassingly, I left the race a lap early because I thought it was over. But turns out I was just the last person to get lapped, and the checkered flag was for Hurls, who was in the lead and was about to come through and lap me from behind. But that was a very bad race. But luckily, where I was the last person to not get lapped, I only dropped 2 P6. I only lost 1 position. I was in 5th place anyway. And then for NA, had a really good heat race. I was really happy with it. I mean, I've got a video of it up on the channel. Like, really consistent run, like 56s the entire heat race. I looked at my analysis, and after lap 1, there wasn't a lap outside of the 56s. It was really, really like fastly consistent. And I was pulling away from the rest of the field. But then main event came, and really good start. Happy I found a new start technique besides the Linda launch, which has now been banned, which is really annoying. Great start. Checked up in the long rhythm in the middle of the track over there on lap 1, because I just didn't feel like I had the drive to clear the big quad line. And then Isaac just came flying by, and then I can't remember where I crashed originally, but I had like a horrendous couple of laps where I just kept making so many mistakes, and I just kind of set myself up for failure. And it seems to be a common occurrence with my riding, where the first half of the race I'll be down absolutely horrendous, and then by about midway I find some sort of a flow and start reading everyone back in again. Like, I want to step on off there, but it's not going too smoothly. And I went from 24 seconds down about halfway through to 12 seconds down by the end. So I know that the pace is there. It's just trying to eliminate them mistakes. And I mean, I can make every excuse under the sun, but the main one for me, which I know Rum fully agrees with as well, I don't know if any of the other European riders share this, if you stay up to do the NA races, is I feel like my eyes, for one, don't work that early in the morning. It all finished about 3 AM for me on the 250 side. And then not only that, I feel like my thumbs don't do what my brain tells it to do. I get so tired at that point, and people have said to sleep between EU and NA, but I kind of have to use that time to get accustomed to the 250 again after riding the 450 for EU. So it's definitely a bit of a difficult one. But I mean, the pace is there, and I got 3rd place in NA, which I can't be super unhappy with. It's still a podium. I mean, my main goal for all of these series that I'm doing right now, whether it's EU 450 Supercross, NA 250 Supercross, or the MX Bikes GP Supercross, Motocross series, Jesus Christ. Maybe it's still 3am, maybe my brain still isn't working, but any of them series, it's just to get top 3, just to be in the like the money paying positions. I know that the prize purse is meant to be pretty decent across the board, so that's just kind of my goal. I mean, I probably could sit down and grind out another 20 or so hours a week on the game, but I think that would really burn me out and I'd lose the enjoyment for the game as much. So for the amount of effort that I put into it, I'm kind of more than happy being where I am. And I don't know, I need to chill out a lot more when I'm streaming, because watching round 4 stream back was incredibly cringy, like embarrassing behaviour on my part, just moaning at everybody that exists. So I need to sort that out. But I say that every time as well, and I always get just caught up in the moment. That was the line I wanted to do, thank God. And I don't know, I think the racing side or the competition side gets the better of me, but I do need to try and chill out a bit. And it's just annoying because obviously I had such a good season last year, and I always forget just how much the game has improved since then. Like, everybody's got so much faster. I think I qualified 12th for EU 450s, which is by far the worst qualifying I've had in a very, very, very long time. And I think it's just a testament to show that how fast everybody has got. Because I don't think my lap time was atrocious by any means, but everyone else has just got that much better. And I know that obviously you've got to take your qualifying results with a pinch of salt all the time, because you do get the people that are hot lap heroes. I'm not going to throw any names out there, but in NA, for example, I qualified, I think it was 3rd or 4th-ish, and the guy that qualified in 2nd place got lapped in the mains. Just throwing that out there. So hot laps aren't everything. If you are someone that can now quite comfortably make it into the races with your lap times, go and practice your race pace, because there's no point being good for a lap or half a lap and then wadding yourself. So work on that, and that's the only thing that's kind of carrying me through these races at the moment, is I feel like once I get all of those early race mistakes out of the way, my race pace isn't too terrible. And I don't know what it is, because before the main event starts, I go into testing and I practice the track on like smooth, flat conditions like it would be at the start of the main. And then just in that whole process of loading into the main event, waiting for everyone to get in and synced and start the race, I guess my fingers just kind of go cold again and the muscle memory goes, and it takes me quite a while to get going. So that's something I need to work on. I don't know how I would go about practicing that, but it's there. At least so I know what the problem is, and I just need to try and find a way of fixing it. I feel like the 250 title, obviously we've only done one round, so it's very much still in contention. The 450 title, I'm not too sure about. Like, I got 6th. Hurls won again, so Hurls is probably a good 20 plus points ahead at this point. And while that doesn't sound like a huge amount, like Hurls and skills together, like their general speed is just incredible. I'm pretty sure they were both running my qualifying laps consistently throughout the main event. So I feel like that's one that I might have to write off, which might sound a little bit of a defeatist mentality, but I think it's better to set your goals low and avoid disappointment than try and say that you're just going to go and win every race and then end up getting like 6th places and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's where I stand in terms of Supercross right now. I am struggling a bit. More so, I think my biggest issues on the 450 side of things comes from my front end. I need to do something either suspension-wise or riding technique-wise to avoid the front end going all loose and swapping side to side and making me crash. On the 250 side, I don't know if it's south as well or if I just need to work on corner speed a bit more, but most of my mistakes came from checking up in that long rhythm section back there because I wasn't sure I was going to get the quad in. Just from general pace, I didn't feel like I was going to get the speed to get up and over it cleanly. Or in 1 or 2 of the corners, my back end slid out a little bit, which is quite strange because I feel like the 250s are hella grippy, so maybe I was just leant over too far. But I do... Now, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion that I've got. Now, erode. So, I watched the NA 450 race. There was about 4 or 5 death spikes that appeared. The erode was on 0.3, which is exactly the same as the EU race was on, which didn't get any death spikes. And I see so many people saying, erode is arse, we need 0.2, so on and so forth. However, we've done test races on 0.2, and you may as well just not run erode at all. The track doesn't dig down like enough to warrant you changing lines. If anything, I would say the track actually gets faster on 0.2 erode because you can just hit the outside of the berms the entire race and faster because there's more of a rut to hold you in. And I see a lot of people complaining, saying 0.3 is awful for racing, 0.2 would be much better. I would argue the opposite, that going lower erode would be even worse because then it literally just does turn into follow the leader. I've seen some people saying that they can't cut down in corners. You wouldn't be able to cut down on corners on 0.2 either. Like, that defeats the point because the rut will still be there. You'll still lose the front end if you try cutting down. And most of the time, the outside is always going to be faster than trying to hug it a bit more tighter on the inside. At least when it's 0.3 erode and it gets fairly deep, you can go further on the inside of that rut and still be at a competitive time because that rut's so deep you can't go Mach 10 round it. So I'm not sure what they need to do with the erode, if I'm completely honest. I would like them to keep it on 0.3. I would say that on the 250 side of things, I would go as far to say that they should probably up it to 0.4 or something, because I don't think that the main event really got deep enough at all in NA, at least I experienced it. I'm definitely not against pre-made ruts if they want to make the erode super low, just give people something to bank off of, because I don't think in this game, with how the erode forms, I don't think you're ever going to have a situation where you can have ruts form in and being able to cut down and go across them. It's not going to work. And I mean, the biggest issue is there is one fast line around the track, and that is going all the way around the outsides in the corners as much as you can, which means that is the one line that forms, and you just kind of end up back in square one where you've got one massive rut and then nowhere else to go. And I'm recording this just after qualifying of Houston, by the way, IRL. It's currently Saturday night as I'm recording this. And watching the power that those 450 guys have, even to be able to send like big lines like triple quad in that section to my right there, I wish this game replicated that way of putting the power down to the ground better. Like the acceleration is something that we do really lack. and even specific seat bouncing techniques. If we could seat bounce properly in this game, I do think that the corners would be slightly different. You'd be able to stay lower in them, you'd be able to cut down in them and still hit the big lines. But right now, you're kind of stuck to railing the entire outside of a corner just to hit the fast line in, and that's why it just gets so deep and one-lined. I think this track itself, whilst I enjoy just riding it in general, I do feel like it's quite a one-line track in terms of the fast lines. Very difficult track to pass on. I did notice there were some big trains going on during the races, at least from what I watched. And I think the only way really that you gain a bunch of time is either by staying super low through the rhythms, or doing what Skills does and basically wheeling the entirety of that whoop section there, and then making it through every like 8 out of 10 times and just risking that one crash. I myself do not want to do that. I have no idea how that man can wheelie through the entire whoop section and not crash more times than he does, but it's something that he's practiced and he's good at, so hats off to him, fair play. And I feel like I've gone completely off topic again. This whole thing was seeing how the SurRon handles the Supercross tracks. Now, I'm getting around the track, sure. I'm hitting some of the main lines, but I've got to be pretty damn perfect to do so. Cannot, for the life of me, hit the quad, the main quad over in that section. You've got to check up and go on-off. But I think overall it could be really good fun, and I'm actually very excited to see how the Alta and the Varg will handle in-game. Because to my knowledge, the Varg is going to be the king. You know, it can be mapped to feel like a 125, it can be mapped to feel like a 450. I mean, looking at the stats from it, IRL, it looks incredibly strong, like a really good bike all round. And I've said before that it's something I was looking into maybe buying myself. I just don't know if I can dare look at my bank account after spending that much money on a motorbike. It's just not in me. I like going for the slightly cheaper route all the time. That's why I buy Japanese motorcycles, Yamaha. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to see how these bikes handle in game, and the fact that they're their own class. Hopefully, we get some nice fun e-bike only series, which I will definitely be taking part of, because they're just different. You know, it's nice mixing it up every now and then. I think it's the same reason that people like the 125 series so much, because it's just different from the normal open races where you just get a bunch of 450s and a couple of 250s in there. But overall, this bike does not handle Supercross too terribly. I'm sure there's some weird and wonderful things that I could try and do to the suspension to make it feel a little bit nicer. I also have the issue of having these tyres on, so as soon as I touch the sand, it just completely yeets sideways. It doesn't get grip whatsoever. But that's not on the SurRon's fault. That's just kind of, I'm used to the Beta 18 stuff, and it doesn't transfer over to this. But I think that'll do it from me. Like I said earlier in the video, let me know your thoughts on all of the electric bikes, and if you've ever ridden one yourself and how it feels in comparison to your normal gas bike. And if you enjoyed the video, if I could ask you to drop a like and subscribe to the channel as always, I would greatly appreciate it. I apologise for my very mid-riding this entire video. But yeah, have a lovely rest of the day, whatever you're up to, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.